Yo, what's up, guys? We're back, and this one's a great card, man. I'm super excited for this one. UFC 285, we're going to be doing the full card breakdown and predictions like always, and I'm pumped. I'm pumped for this main event. I'm going to be going to the show, that's adding some excitement for me. Really excited to see Jon Jones back, and the card overall is pretty good. Even this first fight of the night is a solid fight, but just right before we get started, man, you guys have been doing a lot better with the likes lately. I really appreciate it, so let's do it again, man. Let's try to get 150 likes. We almost got there last time. I know we can get over that, over 150, so hit that like button right now if you're listening, and let's try to get over 150 likes. That would be incredible. And yeah, man, just know, if you're on this channel, you're new to the channel, or you're not really that active of a follower, you're getting some of the best information on the internet on this channel. I'm moving closer into the top 5 on Bet tips for units profit for all tipsters in MMA. And yeah, man, outside of that, if you go to the patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru, I got a lot of bets for this card already. UFC 285, it's the most money risks I've had all year. We've won all but one UFC event this year, betting-wise, so I think we're 6 out of 7. Been doing really well this year, and we're going to keep doing well, man. I'm going to put in the time, and I know we're going to get the results. So definitely go over to patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru, get all the bets for the card, and make some money, man. But let's get into this first fight of the night. Loic Radzhabov taking on Esteban Ribovics. And Loic Radzhabov and Esteban Ribovics are late additions, but great additions to the card. For Radzhabov, he's a former 2-time PFL playoff finalist. He never won, but he made it to the finals twice, and fun to watch. He's 16-4, and since 2017, he's been fighting some of the best competition outside of the UFC, so he's definitely prepped and ready for this opportunity. 31 years old, so he's in or near his physical prime. He has a great gym behind him in Killcliff FC, and his countryman Nurullo Aliyev was the first Tajikistan fighter to compete in the UFC and win last week, and now he's looking to follow in his footsteps and become the second here. And I'm sure that he's going to be eager to get out there and do business. It's been over a year since he's fought, so it's been a while for him. For Ribovics, he's undefeated. He's coming out of Argentina. His last fight was his Contender Series fight where he earned his UFC contract. And he's 11-0 with 11 finishes. So far, he might not have fought the best competition, but he's taken everybody out and he's looked dominant. And even without a decision win, he's shown cardio because he's gotten 3 third-round finishes. Originally, he was expecting to fight against Kamuela Kirk on this card, who's a different opponent, and in my opinion, an easier opponent than Loic Radzhabov, but now Radzhabov is coming in here and going to give Ribovics a true test. At this point, there are a lot of questions still regarding Ribovics' competition level, and this performance will answer some of those questions. So, for Esteban Ribovics, he's a very intriguing fighter. On the feet, he's extremely fast, ultra dangerous early. He has 6 first-round finishes, 3 sub-1-minute knockouts. His last fight, he got another knockout, which came in 1 minute and 30 seconds. And he's very long, does a great job using elusive movement, footwork, lulls fighters into a false sense of security, and then he'll explode in with the power 2-3 combination. He throws real nice ground and pound, and he can close the distance really fast. So if he hurts you, drops you, and gets on top, he can end the fight really quickly, and that's what he's done several times. And he's really good at jabbing his way into range, and then you'll pick the right shots to land on the inside, tight hooks, nice uppercuts, he'll rip the body. And defensively, he does seem a little bit hittable, especially if you can back him up. But I haven't seen too many fighters that were that proficient pressure fighters that he was able to fight. His last fight against Thomas Paul, he did fight a pressure fighter, and he got hit a few times with some decent shots, but he showed one-punch power yet again, and this time was a slick counter off the back foot. So Ribovics is definitely a real deal striker, and he's a tricky grappler. His wrestling, offensive, defense seem a little questionable. I do think Radzhabov could take Ribovics down, but Ribovics does a great job using his length, his jiu-jitsu to submit or create sweep scenarios, and I haven't seen Ribovics in there with the fighter with the top pressure and wrestling prowess of a Loic Radzhabov, so we're going to see if he can create those same sweep and scramble opportunities against this level of grappler. But I do think that he has good grappling, and I think he could probably get back up to his feet after he's taken down. Cardio-wise, Ribovics has good cardio, but I definitely think he slows down a little bit, and he doesn't have too much experience in longer fights. But his opponent, Loic Radzhabov, short, compact, powerhouse, big, muscular guy. He's explosive. On the feet, he pressures forward, hands down, uses a lot of head movement, feints, and then will throw a lot of big overhands to close the distance, shoot along the cage, switch stance guy. And he's a heavy hitter, so when he connects with the looping power shots, also he has a decent left hook. He is dangerous, and he just throws some occasional kicks. He'll bring a lot of pressure and fight at a high pace. Great chin, very durable, and he's never been finished, and his career started in 2012, so that tells you something. He throws kicks in punching range at times, can get countered, can get clipped. He throws a lot of wide punches that leave him open to be countered, so this is going to be a huge test of his chin against a guy like Ribas, who's shown nasty power. And Radzhabov in this fight, I think, would be wise to embrace the grind. He's a good chain wrestler against the cage, very strong. On top, he doesn't have the best top control, which I think could be an issue for him against a good scrambler like Ribas. But mixing it up is going to be his smartest thing to do. If he can get in the clinch against the fence, get a couple takedowns, even if he can't control, it could open up a striking, make Ribas a little bit less active. And there's also potential Ribas could gas and eventually start to get held down against a guy that has better wrestling than he's ever faced. For Radzhabov, his cardio isn't bad. He's fought in 5-round fights, and he pushes a really high pace. So I would say he probably has the superior cardio. And it's a tricky fight because I believe that Ribas has the tools to defeat Radzhabov in terms of the striking and the jiu-jitsu and get-ups, but Radzhabov's experience, durability, power, and wrestling make him a live fighter here, in my opinion. I think on the feet it's going to be competitive, especially early, unless Ribas can land another clean one-punch KO. Radzhabov will be fast himself and swinging big shots. Ribas tends to get hit a little bit, and he's shown he could take that power. So I think he's going to be able to take some shots, but Radzhabov is the heaviest hitter he's probably ever faced. Ultimately, though, I think that Ribas is the cleaner striker, can land the heavy counters right on the chin that could potentially put Radzhabov out. And Ribas has to be ready to do it for 3 rounds because I said earlier, Radzhabov has never been finished, so obviously it's not something you can really bank on. As far as the wrestling goes, I think that Radzhabov has a pretty big advantage there, but I think that if he wins, it's going to be through a lot of cage grinding, maybe hitting some mat returns and controlling the back from like the wrestling ride position. But I don't really see him holding down and just laying on top in half guard or full guard on Ribas, and Ribas isn't able to stand up. I think that Ribas will be able to get up from bottom, and I think he's going to be able to land the heavy shots, and I think he's going to have a chance to land a knockout. So I'm going to pick Ribas by first round knockout as my official pick, but I think he could win by decision as well, and I think he's a pretty good underdog at the line that he's at. I think that's line is off. I mean, Loic hasn't fought in over a year, coming in on short notice here. Ribas, he's a young kid that was getting ready for this UFC debut for a while, and he's very dangerous. He also has the ability to stand up from bottom, and he has knockout power. Loic Radzhabov lost to Alex Martinez in the PFL. He did come back and avenge that loss, but I feel like Alex Martinez is a lesser version of Ribas, less dangerous, not as athletic or explosive. So I think if Alex Martinez could give Radzhabov trouble, which he did in the rematch as well, then Ribas could potentially get the win too. So at the odds, I'm definitely intrigued, and I'm going to be picking Esteban Ribas via first-round knockout as my... And up next here, we got a matchup in the bantamweight division between 2 prospects. Farid Basharat, obviously, he's even more well-known than he would have been with his brother Javid Basharat, making some noise in the UFC, already getting close to the top 15. And Farid is undefeated as well, 9-0, and he's going to be looking to get the win here against Damon Blackshear, who came in as a big underdog in his UFC debut against Youssef Salah, and I thought he got the win. I thought he did enough to get the victory, but they gave the third round to 10-8 for Salah, so it ended up being a draw on the scorecards, and Blackshear came away without a win or a loss in his debut, so he's going to be looking for his first UFC victory in this one. And both these guys, pretty experienced. They fought good fighters before they came to the UFC, and they should be ready to go here. When you look at their styles, Farid Basharat, he has a very similar style to his brother, where he has a lot of very good movement, footwork on the outside, long striking, a lot of good kicks, speed, and then he can mix in the wrestling as well and take you down. And for Damon Blackshear, he's more of a wrestler, grappler type guy. He has good speed on the feet, good footwork, pretty solid defense, and he likes to say defensively sound. He has good speed as well, so he could kind of just wait for his moment. When you get out of position, he'll explode in with the combination and then try to level change and take you down, and he has good wrestling. I think that Basharat's wrestling defense and distance control is pretty high level, and I think it's going to be hard for Blackshear to get that wrestling going because he doesn't really set it up with the striking the greatest. He doesn't mix things up the best, and I feel like Basharat is just on another level in terms of mixing it up. And I think that Basharat's going to be a lot more active on the outside, so Blackshear's going to have to get the takedowns and control for large portions of the round, which I think if he does get takedowns on Basharat's at Extreme Couture. He's training with his brother. He's training with other elite grapplers, and I don't see him just getting held down on the ground. So I think that even if he does get taken down a couple times, he's going to be very difficult to hold down, and I feel like he can hit takedowns on Blackshear as well. With Blackshear, we've seen that he's lost to a lot of grapplers and lost to guys that could out-wrestle him, put him on his back, and Basharat has the ability to do that, in my opinion. So I feel like Basharat has Blackshear kind of covered in all areas. I think he's a superior striker at range. I think he's a superior striker in the clinch. I think he has probably superior grappling. Wrestling-wise, it's probably fairly close. I think Blackshear definitely, you have to give him respect in the wrestling. But I don't think that the wrestling is going to be enough to beat Basharat here. And I think that Basharat also has the superior cardio. So at the end of the day, I think Basharat's a big favorite for a reason. I think he's going to get the job done. And I'm going to say he gets it done via late finish or via decision. So give me Farid Basharat here for the victory.
This fight, we got Jessica Penne taking on Tabitha Ricci. This is a prospect fight against a veteran. And I see the line, man. I see everyone's betting up Tabitha Ricci. Now they got Penne at like a plus 250. I think that's wild. I think you guys are tripping. The people that are betting on Ricci all the way at like over minus 250 odds and stuff like that. Now I see she's up to minus 270, minus 280. I think that's way too wide. Personally, I mean, when you're looking at this fight, I think this is a tougher matchup for Tabitha Ricci than a lot of other girls that are probably at a higher standing in the eyes of the bookies and the eyes of the fans and people that watch the sport than Jessica Penne, because Jessica Penne is an elite grappler. I think Penne is the better grappler of the two, even though Tabitha Ricci, that's her game, and that's going to make this fight very difficult, along with Jessica Penne being significantly bigger. She's 4 inches taller. She has 5 inches in reach. And the one thing when you look at Jessica Penne is she is 40 years old, and that pops out of you right away. I mean, 12 years older than Ricci, and 40 years old is really high number for MMA, especially female MMA, and 115 pounds. But you look at Jessica Penne's career, and she had that long layoff where she didn't fight for about 4 years, which makes her a lot younger than her age in MMA years. And she's been performing well. I mean, since she's came back to the sport, she's gotten 2 big upset victories. She beat Lupi Godinez, even in a controversial win. She still got the decision nod. And her last fight, she lost to Emily to Cody, but Emily to Cody was on a big win streak before that. She was the Invicta champion. She was able to win the first round against Cody, Jessica Penne, and fought really tough. I mean, she got her leg beat up with leg kicks in that one, and she was facing a superior striker. But she hung in there, and she showed her hands are a lot better, her straight punches, her 1-2s. And in this particular fight with Tabitha Ricci, I think that Penne is a lot better striker. I mean, even though Penne is not a great striker in my estimation, and neither girl is great on the feet, I just don't think Tabitha Ricci offers that much in the stand-up. She's fast, so she's pretty elusive on the outside, and she'll dart in, dart out with some punches. She'll throw some kicks, but to me, she doesn't have power. She doesn't really have any reason or rhyme about her striking. She doesn't set things up that great, and it's all just kind of a distraction, end up eventually getting the takedown. And I think that Penne is going to be pressing forward and be the superior striker on the feet, throwing more volume, I feel, as well, significantly. And I think Penne also has the cardio edge, so I would look to press and really push the pace, which, you know, with Jessica Penne, one thing about her is even if you don't think she's a great fighter, she's always going to come in and she's going to be extremely tough and durable, and she's going to be very well conditioned. So you never have to worry about her quitting in there. You never have to worry about her getting tired usually. So she's a professional for sure, and she's a veteran. But yeah, and then when you look at the ground, and in terms of the wrestling, I do favor Tabitha Ricci. I think she probably can get some explosive takedowns on Jessica Penne, but once it gets to the ground, I just don't know. I don't see Ricci being overwhelmingly better on the ground. I think that Penne's guard and her length is going to give Ricci a lot of problems. We just watched her last fight with Polyana Viana, and Ricci was not comfortable at all in the guard of Polyana Viana. She kept standing up out of the guard. She was kicking the legs and didn't seem willing to play on the ground with a long grappler with a good guard, and that's what you have here with Jessica Penne. And I think that Penne's length could potentially get her into a good position in a clinch exchange where she could take the back, which you've seen her do plenty of times. And I feel if Penne gets on top, she's going to be a little bit more effective So ultimately, I feel like Penne has a lot of advantages in this fight. I think she has the striking advantage. I think she has the cardio advantage. I think she has the grappling advantage. The youth, the athleticism is on the side of Ricci, and probably the wrestling is on the side of Ricci. But I just don't know if she's going to do enough offense to win this fight. I think that it's a fight where it should be like closer to a 50-50 on the money line, because I just don't think Ricci has proven much of anything in MMA yet. I think she has a long way to go. And I still have a lot of respect for Penne. I think that she's still a pretty good fighter in the weight class. So honestly, I'm picking Penne to win this fight here by decision. I think that it could potentially be competitive, but I think that Penne is going to have the more impactful moments in the fight, and I think she's going to have the better cardio down the stretch. I think that Ricci might hit a couple of takedowns, but Penne will either sweep her, put her in some submission danger, or Ricci will just be uncomfortable and get back up to her feet and not really impose herself on the ground. And I think that Penne is not going to be as novice or have as bad fight IQ as Paulina Viviane to let a fight slip away where you're the superior fighter, but you give away too many minutes just by being kind of lazy, laying on your back, and just showing a lack of urgency and a lack of fight IQ, which I don't think Penne is going to do. So unless Jessica Penne just falls off a cliff here and she doesn't look like she did against Emily to Cody, then I think she's going to get the win. So I'm going to go with Jessica Penne, and I think she's a pretty good value, especially if people keep betting up Tabitha Ricci. So give me Jessica Penne in this spot, and I'm going to pick her by decision.
And this next fight's a fight I'm pretty confident in, with Mana Martinez taking on Cameron Saaiman. I'm pretty high on Cameron Saaiman, man. I think he's going to be a good prospect. He's very young. He has an elite motor. His striking, you could tell that it's improving every time out. He's fairly technical, and he has aggression and a lot of power. And his wrestling is top-notch. Not his wrestling necessarily, but just his aggressiveness to get the takedowns. I wouldn't say he's like a high-level D1 wrestler, but his aggressiveness and aggression to get the takedowns, especially against a guy like Mana Martinez, and then his top game is a lot to deal with. He's a beast, and he pushes an extremely high pace. When he gets you to the ground, he's working heavy ground and pound to try to open up submissions or finish you with the punches and elbows on the ground. And he just fights very ferociously. He looks extremely durable, and you could tell that he wants it. He has elite heart. And Mana Martinez, he's a guy that I'm not extremely high on. Mana Martinez is a slick counter striker. He does a good job of fighting off the back foot and off the front foot, and he can kind of control distance and land his long counter punches. He has good height and range for the weight class, good speed, and he's shown solid power and timing. But I think his power is a little overrated. I don't think he's necessarily going to knock out a guy like Cameron Saaiman. And his defense is not the best. I feel like Martinez slows down a little bit when you pressure him as well. And if you can get on the inside of his long counter strikes, you can start to beat him up on the inside. And you saw Ronnie Lawrence take him down at will, drop him multiple times. And I feel like Martinez's chin is a little bit questionable. So I think that Saaiman could definitely hurt Martinez on the feet. I think he could take him down and control him on the ground and beat him up on the ground. Martinez has okay jiu-jitsu off his back, but I don't think he has the get-up game to stand up under Saaiman. And if he does, I don't think he can do it at a consistent clip because I think Saimon's going to be taking him down more than one time per round if he does get up. And I also feel like Martinez doesn't have that cardio or dog in him, man. I think that Saimon's going to outdog him in this fight, and I think Saimon's going to end up finishing him with either a TKO on the ground or catching him with a big punch and then finishing him on the ground with ground and pound, or just knocking him out straight up. So I think that Cameron Saaiman is going to come in here, he's going to impress again, and I think he's going to get the finish in the second or third round by KO TKO against Mana Martinez. And up next here, we got Ian Garry taking on Kenan Song, and I was hoping they were going to give Ian Garry a step up of competition here, but you could clearly see that they're still bringing him up and want to level him up accordingly, keep getting him some nice wins, and I feel like this is a tailor-made matchup for Ian Garry. When you look at Kenan Song, he doesn't have grappling. He's not going to go in there and try to take you down, which I think is what people want to see Garry against, a really good wrestler. And he's not someone that has the cardio to push a high pace. He's not going to be someone that's getting in Gary's face and making it a crazy war. With Kenan Song, you got a guy that's a pretty technical striker, but he still gets a little wild. And he is aggressive early. He goes out there, he has knockout power, and he's going to try to land that straight or the overhand right and put you out. But he's just doesn't have that slickness and the educated striking that a guy like Ian Garry does. He leaves openings to be countered, and he slows down as the fight goes on pretty significantly. He's been knocked out in most of his losses. And even though he's got a few knockout wins, I think it's going to be unlikely that he's going to be able to go in there and get inside on Ian Garry and get him in a boxing exchange in the pocket and catch him, because Garry just doesn't fight with that style. He's always going to be moving. He's going to be making Kenan have to chase him down. He's going to be trying to snipe Kenan as he comes in. And I think he's going to get Kenan tired by having him have to chase him. And eventually I think he's going to catch him and knock him out. And I think Ian Garry could even out-grapple him and show his wrestling skills in this one, which hasn't really shown in the UFC if he's really struggling with the striking, which I don't think is going to happen. But he could hit takedowns on this guy with his body locks, and his top game is actually a lot better than people give him credit for. I feel like they haven't really seen it yet. So Ian Garry, I think, has him covered everywhere in this fight. Garry has shown good cardio, good durability. His confidence is very high. And if he loses to Kenan Song, I just think it'd be a fluke knockout early in the fight, which Kenan Song does have that ability. I mean, we've seen him get some early knockouts even in the UFC, so he's beaten some UFC-level guys quickly. But to predict him doing that to Ian Garry, I think would be pretty foolish, and I feel like Ian Garry is just significantly better than him. He's a lot bigger and longer as well, and I think that's going to play a factor on the feet. And I just think that Kenan Song is going to start to get a little bit tired, either late first round or second round, and get clipped and knocked out with the counter strike coming in. And I think Ian Gary's going to catch him with a real slick one punch KO, kind of like the Jordan Williams. It's going to look good for him. It's going to be, good for the highlight reel, and then hopefully we could see him start to fight some better guys moving forward. But give me Ian Garry. I'm going to say he wins via second round KO, TKO. And this next fight, this is going to be a war right here, most likely. Julian Marquez, Marc-Andre Barriault. When I'm looking at this matchup, Marc-Andre Barriault to me is the much more technical fighter. I think that he has a good jab, nice 1-2s, good pressure. His high guard is good defense. He will attack the body as well, pushes a high pace, presses the guy to the cage. He can wrestle a little bit, and he's a well-rounded guy. He's pretty solid, good technical guy, but the issue with Marc-Andre Barriault is the speed, man. He just doesn't have that speed. He's a slow fighter, which it could give him a lot of issues trying to close the distance against fighters with good footwork that move around. It could touch and move on him. We saw that with Jotko. We saw that when he got clipped and knocked out against Chidi Ninja Kawani. And he just has a little bit of issues with fighters that can move around and dance around him. His last fight, he got completely out-wrestled, out-grappled by Hernandez. So with that fight, against Fluffy, Anthony Hernandez just was a horrible performance from Barriault. He just got out-wrestled for the entire fight. And Hernandez can do that to you, though, and I don't think Marquez is going to come in here and take him down. I would be very surprised. I think Barriault is the better wrestler and grappler in this particular matchup. So I don't think that he has to worry about that here. And with this fight with Barriault, I think he just has to try to control the chaos that Marquez is going to bring. Barriault likes to get in brawls and wars and fight crazy fights, and needs to be more methodical, smart here. Uses fight IQ, uses technicality on the feet. If he can use the jab, the 1-2s, he could touch Marquez all day, and I think he could clinch him and get some takedowns on Marquez as well. And Marquez's takedown defense is very suspect. We saw Marquez's last fight against Gregory Rodriguez was getting clipped with the jab and the pull 2s all day, ended up getting knocked out cold against Rodriguez, which was a really bad look because Marquez is the guy that notoriously could take a lot of damage, and we saw him get clipped and put out for once, so we don't really know how he's going to look coming forward. But when you look at Julian Marquez and his style, very wild guy, wants to get in a war on the feet, throw bombs, and he has decent grappling skills as well. Like, he can catch you in those front chokes, he can sweep you, get on top, and when he gets on top, he's very aggressive with his submission game and his top pressure and ground and pound. So Marquez is dangerous. Another thing about Marquez that he has that has gotten him the victory in certain fights is his toughness and cardio. He could take damage up front, come back, get the win later. He could push a high pace, then finish you in that third round. He could be losing, come back to win. So he's shown a lot of different ways that he's been able to come back and win using his pace and his cardio. But with Marc-Andre Barriault, he's someone that was training at Kill Cliff FC, and even before he went to Kill Cliff and started training with some high-level guys, he always came in great shape. I don't think he's going to get out-cardioed or get tired and outpaced in that way. And I think that his technical skill set is a lot better than Marquez's overall. So unless Marquez can kind of catch him in a freaky finish, guillotine, hurt him, and finish him off with strikes, and I think Barriault's going to get the job done. I don't know if he's going to finish him or he's going to win by decision, but I'm going to say Marc-Andre Barriault gets the win here in this fight. And this is one of those fights, though, that I would just watch as a fan. I'm not too interested in it from a betting perspective. Both these guys are fairly untrustworthy, but I'm going to go with Marc-Andre Barriault in this one. And up next here we got Viviane Araujo. She's taking on Amanda Ribas, and I'm seeing a lot of people super confident on Ribas this week. And me personally, I'm not confident on either girl, and I don't know how you could be that confident on Ribas because Vivi Araujo is still a beast. She's a bad matchup for Ribas as well, in my opinion. I mean, when you look at how both girls fight, Viviane Araujo, she throws heat on the feet, very explosive girl. She has fairly technical striking, power. She has good 1-2s. She has heavy leg kicks, and she'll throw that big overhand and big hooks on the inside. She's much more power-based and much more explosive-based. She's throwing with bad intentions, whereas Amanda Ribas, she comes forward. She uses her length to kind of try to mess around a lot with the hands, then use her upper body movement to slip and rip, and then eventually use her slip and rip ability with the hands to set up the takedowns, and then that's kind of how she wins her fights. And she has real good judo. We saw that with Katlyn Chookagian, where if she can get in the clinch, she could judo toss you. She's able to get on top more often than not, start to control you. I believe she's taken down every single fighter she's faced in the UFC, so that's a big feather in Amanda Ribas' cap. And this is moving up to 25 for the second time here, and I think that Chookagian, even though she's a big 125er, she's someone that doesn't hit like Araujo. She's someone that's not explosive and powerful like Araujo. I think it's a harder fight in terms of that, the physicality. I don't think that she's going to be able to just close the distance, clinch up with Vivi and just throw her and put her on her back with these judo throws like she was able to do consistently against Chookagian. I would be surprised. I think Araujo's going to stand up a lot more physically to that, and I think Ribas is going to have to strike more, which we haven't really seen Ribas strike without the threat of the takedown in her back pocket in a lot of fights. And Araujo has 90% takedown defense. She's faced good grapplers, and she's been able to stop their takedowns. And I believe that if she can keep this fight on the feet with Ribas, she's going to have the advantage. I think that her speed with her hands and with her kicks is faster, and I think that her chin is definitely better. I think that she actually is someone that in this fight should be willing to pressure, get in the pocket in exchange, because I think she has the superior power to Ribas and the superior chin, and if she can kind of land clean, she could get Ribas out of there potentially like we saw Marina Rodriguez do. But I think it's all going to come down to the pace. If Ribas could take the power of Evie and stay in her face and pull counter and be more effective with the striking, then I think she could potentially get Vivi tired and then start to get some takedowns as the fight goes on and take over that way. But with Araujo, I think that she's going to be trying to fight more technical, fight more at a controlled pace, land the power shots that kind of give her the ability to control that pace and dictate, the speed of the fight. I think she can mix in some leg kicks that could be effective, and I feel like if it stays standing, then Vivi's going to get the win. So I'm personally going to go with Araujo, actually. I know it seems like everyone is on Amanda Ribas, and I just don't really understand that. I feel like even though Araujo's a little older, I think that she's going to show that she has good takedown defense. She can keep it on the feet. She could outstrike Ribas, and the size might be a little bit too much for Ribas at this division. I think she should go back to 115. So I'm going to go with Viviane Araujo here by decision. And finishing out the prelims with Derek Brunson against Dricus du Plessis. This is a hell of a fight. And if you've been on my channel, you know that I like to bet on Derek Brunson. We kind of rode him a long way through that upset streak he had, and we won quite a bit of good money for him. So I got a bit of a soft spot for Brunson in terms of betting wise, and he's won me some money. But when you look at this fight, I think that you have to go Brunson or pass here again. I mean, a lot of people are on du Plessis, and they're thinking he's like a lock. And, I'm going to pick him as a pick just because he's 10 years younger than Derek Brunson. He's hungry. He's in his prime. He is on a long win streak. Brunson's coming off that knockout loss. Who knows where his head's at after he had his long title run kind of halted there by Jared Cannonier. He hasn't fought in quite a while. But Brunson, one thing I do know is he was talking about retirement. Now he's kind of backtracked on that, said he's feeling better than ever, and he's going to go on another run here to try to get the belt. So it seems like he's gotten some renowned motivation. Maybe he saw Pereira win that title and said, hey, I could take this guy down, so I'm going to try to get back in the game here. And Dricus du Plessis, he obviously is undefeated so far in the UFC. If this is a big step up, I mean, he did beat Brad Tavares, he beat Darren Till, but Derek Brunson's on another level in comparison to those guys. We saw what Derek Brunson did to those fighters when he fought them. So it's going to be a tough test. And when you look at just the matchup from your pure matchup perspective, why I say I think Derek Brunson has to be the side is Dricus du Plessis has only been had to defend 2 takedown attempts in his entire UFC career. Darren Till took him down, and then I believe it was Brad Tavares that attempted 1 takedown, or maybe it was someone else, but some other fighter that he faced attempted 1 takedown and went 0 for 1. So he's 1 for 2 on takedown defense in the UFC. And if you go look at his other fights pre-UFC, if you watch his fight with Garrett McClellan, which granted it was in 2014, he got taken down multiple times per round in that fight, eventually got submitted in the 3rd. You watch his fight with Joyton Luderbach, that was 2019. He got taken out multiple times in the 1st round before eventually in the 2nd he used a guillotine to reverse, get on top, and then finish the fight. And so you do see certain fights where his takedown defense just looks not the best, and he hasn't really faced a lot of grapplers or wrestlers or people that try to take him down. And you know with Derek Brunson, man, this guy is an elite wrestler. If you look at his last 6 fights, he's taken on all 6 opponents either 2 times or more. And I think he's taken on 5 out of 6, 3 or more times. So the guy's really good at taking you down, holding you down. And du Plessis, he's good at getting back up to his feet after he's taken down, but he's never fought someone with the top control of Derek Brunson or the strength and the size and all that mixed in with the wrestling ability. So I don't know. Not many guys that I see are able to stand up from under Derek Brunson when he takes him down. So that's something that, you know, if you get taken down, you kind of have to say that Brunson wins that round, especially if it's early. So du Plessis, I think, has to rely once again on a finish to get the win here. And he seems to do that in a lot of his fights. He's winning until he's losing, and then he finishes you off and just kind of has that real awkward style where he's real hands high. He kind of will allow guys to really pressure him and get inside, clip him. His defense isn't the best, but it seems like he's almost trying to just goad you in, and then eventually he's going to land that check hook, man, and knock you out or land a big counter punch and hurt you and then get you in that guillotine. And he just has an ability to catch the finish. Very opportunistic guy. His last fight with Darren Till, I think it's kind of an anomaly of a fight in terms of what you're going to see in his UFC career, because Darren Till is not an 85er. He's someone that has pretty bad takedown defense, and just the point in his career he was in when he fought du Plessis was probably the lowest he's ever been. And du Plessis went in there, took him down at will, beat him up on the ground, where I think most of his fights he's not going to be that dominant. He's not going to be able to have a grappling advantage like that, especially not in this fight. It's going to be more of him either knocking you out or catching you in a submission for him to win, I believe, against this higher level opposition. But Derek Brunson, we got a guy that we all know his style. He's fought forever now. Early in fights and earlier in his career, he used to blitz through guys, come forward, throw hammers, and knock you guys out early. I think he had a streak where he had 5 or 6 first-round knockouts in a row, which is pretty incredible and just shows that even though he hasn't gotten a knockout in a while, he has that power, he has that ability to close the distance to touch your chin. And du Plessis kind of has weird, bad defense at times. He can get touched, and Brunson has shown that ability to put your lights out, even though he hasn't done it in quite a while. But Brunson, his chin is a little suspect, his defense is suspect, he gets real sloppy on the feet, leaves openings, gets clipped, and if you get clipped against du Plessis, it could be one punch all you need, and you're losing the fight, man. You're going out. So Brunson, it's hard for me to see him not get clipped in this fight, not get finished. I just feel like it's almost inevitable that he's going to be winning the fight and then he's going to get touched and get taken out. So I kind of want to lean towards Brunson. I feel like he can get the wrestling, he can get that top control going and get du Plessis tired, who I don't think is necessarily, you know, a guy with elite cardio. Neither is Brunson, but I think both these guys kind of slow down, and Brunson has more experience in longer fights, 5-round fights, higher level competition fights. So I think it's either a dog or pass at plus 200 odds. I would never bet du Plessis at over like minus 240, minus 250. But as a pick, I'm going to pick du Plessis just because the age, where they're both at in their career, and just Derek Brunson's his history of getting caught and getting finished up out of nowhere, and then du Plessis' opportunistic finishing ability. I think that all kind of lends towards du Plessis probably getting a finish at some point in this fight. So I think Brunson's going to be winning the fight, and then he's ended up going to get either caught in a guillotine, submitted for the first time, or clipped and taken out again by TKO KO. So I'm going to go with du Plessis. I'm going to say ends up getting a finish in the second or third. And I actually misspoke just now in that last prediction. I said they were closing out the prelims. This is actually closing out the prelims here with Cody Garbrandt versus Trevin Jones. And man, I don't have a lot to say about this fight. I'm a fan of Trevin Jones because we did win some money on him when he beat Mario Batista, when he got the win against Timur Valiev. But man, the guy's burned me his last 2 fights. He pissed me off so bad against Raoni Barcelos. He just wasn't doing shit. He didn't throw any shots, and I can't trust the guy, even though it's like, how could you trust Cody Garbrandt? That's why I just don't really care about this fight, man. But when you look at Trevin Jones, he doesn't let his hands go, man. He doesn't let any shots go. Very extremely low volume. He's just looking for that one counter left hook, the counter right hand, and he wants to try to catch you and knock you out with one shot. He has decent wrestling, but he's not going to be able to take down Garbrandt. And Cody is, if he fights smart, which, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't think it's probably going to happen, but if he sits out there on the outside and kind of touches him and boxes him up and uses his technique, he won't barely get hit in this fight, and he'll win the fight, in my opinion. I think that Cody is the superior wrestler as well. I don't know if he could hold down Trevin Jones. I think Jones probably has the better grappling too. He's a black belt, and I think Jones is a little bit bigger, so he's probably going to want to just sit and strike. But yeah, I mean, Jones could win this fight. He has the 4.5-inch reach advantage. He has the knockout power. He has pretty good counter punching ability too, and he could sneak those punches in. So Cody, if he does get wild, I think Trevin Jones is extremely live to touch his chin and knock him out. But Cody is going to be the guy coming forward, throwing way more volume. He's going to be the better striker. He's much more experienced. He's fought way higher level opponents. And outside of just a random him getting caught and knocked out again, then I think he should get the win here. But am I confident, and am I really going to be confident on either side here? I mean, not really. I can't say I'm confident in Cody. So I'm going to pick Cody by decision, actually. I think it's going to be a fight where if he wins, he's going to fight smart. He's going to be disciplined and just kind of outbox the dude from range. Even though he has the reach disadvantage, I think he's going to be at a big speed advantage. I think he's going to be at a big footwork advantage and be able to get in, get out, control that distance, even with that length advantage for Jones, and win the striking from the outside. So give me Cody Garbrandt by decision, but this is a fight I really could care less about, honestly. And this next fight, I mean, what do you want me to say about this one? Don't really have much to say. I mean, Bo Nickal, Jamie Pickett, I think the question of this fight is if Jamie Pickett's going to last 2 minutes. I mean, it's a lot more prevalent question than if he's going to win the fight. I just don't see how he can win this fight. Bo Nickal, even though he's 3-0, we all know about him. He's one of the best prospects in the history of MMA, if you ask me. One of the best wrestlers that has ever decided to transition to the sport. And on top of wrestling, he's not one of these wrestlers that doesn't have the athleticism. He's extremely powerful. He's shown knockout power, extremely explosive, and he has good grappling on the ground. He could submit you. He has elite top control. So the guy's the real deal. He hasn't really faced adversity yet, but I don't see Jamie Pickett giving him any adversity. Jamie Pickett's 34 years old. He's a little bit older. He is a big dude. He has a long reach, but he doesn't have knockout power from what I've seen. He doesn't even have that ability to really slip in those slick punches off the back foot. I mean, I feel like when Pickett wins, it's more through being able to stay on the outside and use those kicks and long-range strikes, and then he also has decent clinch, but if he tries to clinch with Nickal, he's going to get taken down, and I just don't see a lot of avenues about what Pickett could do on the ground. I don't see him being any threat at all. I think that if Nickal gets him down one time, he's going to finish him. And I think Bo Nickal's going to come in here and want to make a statement. I don't think he wants to be fighting these guys at Jamie Pickett's level for that long. I think he wants to move up quick and start fighting these upper echelon fighters. So I see Bo Nickal coming in here and taking him out in the first round, probably within 2 minutes, within a minute and 30 seconds, either ground and pounding him on the ground, submitting him. Pickett, he is a UFC level guy, and Bo Nickal's never fought a UFC level guy, but I don't think he's much better than the fighters he fought in the Contender Series, and I just don't rate Pickett. I don't think that he fights with a lot of urgency. I feel like he fights scared in a lot of fights. He doesn't like getting hit. And I don't think he's one of the guys that's going to face this pressure of facing Bo Nickal and everyone thinking he's going to lose well either. I think that he might crumble under that pressure. So Bo Nickal, man, if he loses this fight, it's going to be one of the biggest upsets in the history of the UFC. And I just don't see it. I think he's going to go out there and win early in the first round by finish. And this next fight, Mateusz Gamrot taking on Jalin Turner. Hell of a fight in the 155-pound division. One thing about Gamrot that does worry me a little bit in this fight is how quick he's coming back from that Neal fight. He did take some damage in that fight. He got knocked down. He got his legs kicked quite a bit. He got his body kicked. So hopefully the guy's 100% coming into this one on short notice, but he probably wants to get that bad taste out of his mouth, get back on the winning ways, and get back close to that title shot because he's right there. He's one of the best grapplers. He's probably the best wrestler. I would say he's a better pure wrestler than even Islam Makhachev in this division. So Gamrot, someone that probably no one wants to see, and Jalin Turner, you got to give him credit because he came in and he could have said, no, I don't want to fight Mateusz Gamrot, even though Dan Hooker pulled out. But he decided to take this fight, man. So good on him. He must feel very confident and feel like he can be ready for anyone in the division, because I think Gamrot is a significantly tougher opponent than Dan Hooker, personally, and just a way harder matchup for Jalin Turner style-wise. So it's going to be interesting. When you see Jalin Turner, he's on this big win streak, a lot of finishes in a row. He's taking guys out really early, and he's tantalizing, man, extremely dangerous. And I see quite a few people picking him as the underdog this week, but personally, I just can't do that, man. I know that he's a big guy for the weight. I know that he has danger striking, super fast hands, 1-2s. When he gets on the inside, he'll throw blistering combos, mix in knees, mix in elbows. And if he can catch Gamrot clean on the chin, he could definitely hurt him and take him out. But we've never seen Gamrot knocked out before. We haven't seen him hurt too much in fights. He's shown very good durability. He's faced long, rangy guys already that are tall like Jalin Turner and handled them very easily. And with Turner, you got a guy that wants to sit in the pocket with you. He's a little bit flat-footed, and he could struggle against guys that stick and move and that use a lot of footwork to walk him down and start touching him. And with Gamrot, he's good at moving around, using that footwork, being evasive, and then eventually timing the takedowns. And Mateusz Gamrot is the best single in the UFC, man. He has some of the best chain wrestling in the UFC. His top control is elite when he gets you to the ground. He has ADCC credentials in jiu-jitsu, an elite-level submission game. His cardio is top-notch. The guy's a freak. I think he's someone that people underrate a little bit just because he might not have the prettiest striking, or he is fairly one-dimensional. But when you have that one dimension with grappling and wrestling, man, you're going to be a motherfucker for anybody either way. And with Jalin Turner, he's shown good front chokes. He said that he's worked a lot on his grappling, but I don't know, man. I've never seen him beat a wrestler before. If you look at his win streak, he fought all strikers. And you see Jamie Malarkey took him down in this run, held him down for the last minute and a half of the first round. We've seen his loss to Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola took him down multiple times. That's how he won the fight. And if you got a guy like Matt Frevola being able to take you down and control you, got a guy like Jamie Malarkey taking you down and controlling you for the first round, I just see Gamrot getting him down, man, submitting him or finishing him on the ground or decisioning him with ease. I just, unless Turner could catch him with a clean shot, I don't see him guillotining him. I don't think the grappling is going to be anywhere for Jalin Turner to be effective. I think Gamer's going to dominate in that realm. And the only way that I could see Turner winning is if Gamrot is somehow a little bit compromised from the Dariush fight still and is a little bit slower. Maybe his takedowns aren't as good. He didn't have the training that he needed to be in the proper shape, or maybe his chin is a little bit compromised. But besides that, man, I feel like Gamer is going to be able to go in here, hit the takedowns, and eventually find the submission on Turner. I feel like Turner is getting a little overrated here because he's been getting these highlight reel finishes and taking guys out left and right, and Gamrot's coming off of a loss. But when you look at the matchup, we've never seen Turner face and defeat a wrestler, and Gamrot's arguably the best wrestler in the UFC, so I think it's going to be very tough ass for Turner to go in there and get the win, and I'm going to go with Gamrot via first round submission. And this next fight, this is a hell of a fight, man. I'm extremely excited for this fight. This is one of the fights I'm most looking forward to on the card. Geoff Neal against Shavkat Rakhmonov, and this is going to be where I get some of the UFC hype beasts mad at me in this prediction video, where I might get some comments talking shit with this prediction, man, but I'm going to go with Geoff Neal in this one, man. It's fight where if the line was closer, maybe I would go with Rakhmonov. Obviously 16-0, 16 finishes, and has everyone in the world kind of looking at him and really inflates his line. I mean, how can you justify that minus 500? Is Geoff Neal just a bomb, man? I mean, Geoff Neal is a bad motherfucker. This guy's a beast. So I think that anytime you can bet on Geoff Neal at those odds, you got to pull the trigger, man. I don't care who he's fighting. That's crazy odds in my opinion. I mean, you got a guy that is a knockout artist with elite takedown defense, good southpaw, great cardio pressure, that obviously at some point in his career when he lost his 2 UFC fights, he was going through some issues, man. He had some health issues going on where he almost died, and now he's came back to the other side. He looked incredible against Luque, man, and I don't get how you could justify Shavkat being this big of a favorite, even with his background and how hyped up people are on him. I mean, when you look at Shavkat Rakhmonov, me personally, I kind of struggle to get a great read on him because you see the level of fighters that he's facing, they aren't really the highest level guys, man. I mean, even when he beat Neil Magny, I think Magny's getting up there, man. I think Magny's kind of getting past it in terms of his career, and he absolutely dominated him with the wrestling, with the grappling, but is he going to take down Geoff Neal and just out wrestle him and just beat the shit out of him on the ground like that? I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, Geoff Neal fought Bilal Muhammad. He defended all his takedowns. His takedown defense looked incredible in that fight. I mean, has some of the best technical takedown defense I've seen in that division. I think he's going to be extremely difficult to take down. And with Rakhmonov striking, I don't have a great read on his striking, man. I mean, the guy's long. Seems like he has a real nice counter check hook as you try to come in, and he'll try to snipe you with the rear cross, and he has a decent overhand as well with the rear hand. He also has nice kicks. You'll see him throw some nice body kicks and spin kicks. And seems like he does a good job of kind of using that distance control to get you to chase him or overextend, and then he clinches you. He can beat guys up really bad in the clinch. He has real good knees, good elbows. Even though he can also get controlled in the clinch against the cage himself, I think that's probably one of his weakest areas is his cage wrestling, and I think Geoff Neal is going to come in here and try to implement some cage grinding against the fence, clinching him and trying to hold him and get him tired and wear on that energy of Shavkat. But where Shavkat shines and where he's at his most incredible is when he can get on top. I feel like he has one of the best top games in the UFC, bar none. His ground and pound is really, really heavy, super accurate, and he opens up submissions seamlessly. His top control is really, really good. If he takes you down, he's going to keep you down for the remainder of the round. So that's just where you don't want to be with Rakhmonov. But I haven't really seen exceptional wrestling from Rakhmonov. I've seen him catch kicks or off-balance guys and get him down. I've seen him get guys down against the cage in certain fights, but I feel like he might struggle a little bit to get down Geoff Neal. I think it's going to be more of a striking fight, maybe some clinch battling against the cage. And on the feet, Geoff Neal can compete with anyone, man, with the speed, with the straight left hand, with his ability to close the distance, with his decent kicking game. And I've seen Shavkat Rakhmonov get dropped heavy in a fight before, almost get knocked out. I've seen him struggle with the striking and against guys that I didn't think were elite level strikers, touching him up, hitting them with some pretty big power shots. And one thing about Rakhmonov is he has an elite chin and elite cardio, so when he got dropped, he recovered super quickly, and he's very hard to hurt in general. But Geoff Neal is a guy that you don't want to get touched by, and I just think this line is off, man. If it stays on the feet, I feel like it's a competitive fight that Neal could easily win. I mean, if Rakhmonov goes in there and dominates him with the stand-up, knocks him out, or takes him down and beats the hell out of him on the ground, then man, I mean, maybe he really is going to be the next champ and be untouchable and all that. But we saw with the Chimaev fight when he fought Gilbert Burns, man, no guy's untouchable. And once you start moving up in the division, you actually face these upper echelon guys. You're going to face some adversity. You're going to face some pushback. And if you're giving me these odds as plus 380, it's probably even going to get even farther up with everyone, all over Shavkat's nuts, So I'm going to go with Geoff Neal on this one, man. And I think Geoff Neal can get the knockout on this guy or win a decision. So, man, give me Geoff Neal in this spot. And, yeah, I mean, I might look stupid. We'll see what happens. I know a lot of people sometimes give me crap for picking a lot of these underdogs. But, man, I mean, go look at my ROI on underdogs. It's like over 15% on big underdogs, moderate underdogs. So I hit often enough to where I got 50% ROI. And a lot of these bets do end up hitting for me when I pick these big underdogs, man. So, I would heed a warning from me, with Shavkat. I would not put him in parlays. I wouldn't do any of that. And I think Geoff Neal is going to potentially spoil the party here. So give me Geoff Neal, and I'll say he wins via, officially, I'll pick third round KO, TKO. And we got the co-main event here, Valentina Shevchenko making a return, taking on Alexa Grasso. And the last time we saw Valentina, man, it was a lot closer than we're used to seeing against Taila Santos. A lot of people actually believe Taila Santos deserved to get the win in that fight. And it was the first fight ever at 125 pounds for Valentina Shevchenko that's even been competitive. All of her other fights at 125, she's absolutely dominated, had no adversity really in any of the fights. I mean, the one fight she had adversity, I guess you could say, is when she lost one round to Jennifer Maia where she got held down. But that fight, it wasn't like she was taking damage or she was any risk of losing like she was in the Taila Santos fight. But, yeah, I mean, now she's going to be coming back, and I think she's going to be trying to make a statement and restamp herself as a dominant champion after that close fight. Because you hear the murmurs now. You hear some people in the division saying, oh, Valentina's 34, almost 35 years old. Her time is coming, and, she's going to lose soon. You see a lot of people talking about Erin Blanchfield coming up and taking the title from Valentina, which I think is a little disrespectful to Alexa, who's already in the fight. But, Valentina's hearing all those people chirping and everything, and she's going to want to come in here and put all that talk to rest. And she's going to be turning 35, I believe, the day after the fight or on fight day. So she's going to be getting a good birthday present for her to fight, hopefully, and get the win. So we'll see what happens there. But Alexa Grasso's coming in. She's trying to upset the apple cart here, and she's gone undefeated so far at 125. She's looked pretty solid. She's been able to go in there and use her boxing and use her improved takedown defense to get the victories in those fights. And now she's getting a chance at a title. It's pretty interesting. I mean, when Alexa Grasso and Irene Aldana and these girls came into the UFC, there was a lot of buzz, and they kind of started off slow. You saw Alexa have that loss to Felice Herrig. She lost another fight to Tatiana Suarez where she got absolutely dominated. But she's came back, and she's proven herself to be at the level that people thought before she went to the UFC. Now she's challenging for a title. So Mexico's been on fire recently. You know, they got 2 champs now, and going to be looking to add a third here. But man, I mean, going against Valentina Shevchenko, it's never an easy day in the office. And with Alexa, we all kind of know what Alexa brings. She's long and rangy, especially at 115. At 125, she's going to have the same height and reach, essentially, as Valentina. But she has very good boxing, good hand speed, those nice combinations. She's very durable as well and powerful and tough. I think people don't give her credit for that. She's, in my opinion, one of the heavier punchers. Even though no one really at 125 has that knockout power, Alexa, I think, has... When you look at her in exchanges, she has a lot of pop, and she can land the heavier shots in comparison to her opponents. You saw that fight with Ji on Kim where it was a war. Both girls landed a lot of shots, but it was just Alexa that was landing a little bit cleaner, a little bit heavier. And the volume for Alexa is very high, and she throws clean combos. So she's very clean with the boxing, and she's improved with her takedown defense, and she's also improved a lot with her ability to work off of her back and her submission game. She's always been a pretty good grappler, an underrated grappler in my opinion, where she's dangerous on bottom. She has fast armbar setups. We saw her almost catch Carla Esparza in that armbar, and she does a good job of sweeping girls, getting on top. And when she gets on top, she's pretty aggressive, and she's active and pretty strong there. So Grasso's good in all areas, but one thing you did see, I mean, when she fought higher level or upper echelon wrestler like Tatiana Suarez, she got absolutely dominated, submitted in the first round. I think she's a little undersized for this weight too, and Valentina's fought at 35, so Valentina I think is going to be physically the bigger girl and more strength and just physically more imposing. And Valentina's style on the feet, you know, she has that Muay Thai counter-striking style, very, very sharp, very, very technical. But in this fight, I think she knows what she has to do to get the victory, and that's grappling and wrestling. And she's kind of indicated and hinted at it this week, talking about she knows with Alexa Grasso struggles, where her fears are, and she's going to be looking to exploit that. And I think she's going to want to put her against a cage, take her down, get on top, beat her up, get in that crucifix position that she likes, and end up finishing with the elbows or, finishing with some sort of submission after softening her up with shots. So I think Valentina, if she can get her grappling going, get on top, she's going to have a big advantage on Grasso. I don't think that Grasso's improved jiu-jitsu off of her back is going to be enough to handle that crushing top game that Valentina has shown time and time again. And Valentina's been able to beat up girls on the ground that were better grapplers than Alexa, like Jessica Andrade, like Lauren Murphy. So I think it's going to be a tough one for Alexa. I just don't see Alexa's boxing and her more one-dimensional kind of style being enough. I don't think that her jiu-jitsu on bottom is going to threaten Valentina. I don't think she's a submission threat too much. So personally, I think this is a much easier fight for Valentina than the Tyler Santos fight. I think that she's going to have the size and grappling advantage by a pretty wide margin. I think once she gets it to the ground, she could soften up Alexa and eventually get her out of there. So personally, I'm going to say Valentina wins in the later rounds, third, fourth, round TKO stoppage from the crucifix position on top. And I think Alexa's going to have maybe a couple moments early. I think she's going to be able to be fairly competitive in the striking, but I think once Valentina starts to find that hole, getting it to the ground and dominating on top, I think Alexa's going to start to slow down and wilt a little bit, and I think we're going to see Valentina eventually get her out of there. So give me Shevchenko to retain the belt, put a statement on, kind of reacclaim herself as arguably the number one pound-for-pound female fighter in the world, and kind of show people that maybe her time isn't up and maybe Blanchfield's going to have someone to deal with, and we'll see what happens when that fight goes down the line. But I'm going to go with Valentina Shevchenko to retain the title. I'll say she wins via third round KO TKO. And finally, we got the fight everyone's been waiting for. We got the fight that has been kind of in the making for over three years for Jon Jones, with Ciryl Gane against Jon Jones. And finally, in the main event here, we got Jon Jones taking on Ciryl Gane. This is a fight that's been 3 years in the making for Jon Jones. really more than that, man. I mean, years and years he's been talking about coming to heavyweight, but really since the last 3 years, it's been more of a serious thing. And finally he's here. We're going to see him on fight week. And, man, I'm just excited to see Jon Jones back, man. I'm watching the embeddeds, and the guy's a legend. It's cool to see him back in the game and, gracing these new fans with his presence, giving him performance, and showing him why he's the GOAT once again. But, yeah, man, we got Jon Jones, and he's going to be taking on Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane is a guy that I'm surprised how many people are picking Ciryl Gane, man. I really am. I mean, a lot of people are pretty confident that Ciryl Gane's going to go in there and beat Jon Jones, but Ciryl Gane, he came in and got the win over Tai Tuivasa in his last fight. He is a former interim champion with his win over Derek Lewis. Obviously, never been a official UFC champion undisputed, where he had the chance against Francis Ngannou and lost that, and now it's going to be his second opportunity at an undisputed title against Jon Jones. He wins this, he's going to be technically the undisputed champion. I guess you could all kind of say that he's disputed because Francis never lost the belt and he did beat Ciryl, but in the eyes of the UFC, he's going to be the undisputed champ. But, yeah, man, I mean, when you look at how this fight plays out, obviously there's a lot of question marks. First, before you even get into the, X's and O's of the fight with Jon Jones in terms of he's been off for over 3 years. It's going to be his first fight at heavyweight. He's 35 years old at this point, so how is he going to look? And, man, I'm not too worried about that, to be honest with you, man. I feel like Jon Jones is going to look good. I really do. I think that he's going to have the motivation again. You look at how many times you defend that belt over and over and over at light heavyweight. You start fighting guys like Thiago Santos, like Dominic Reyes. I mean, these guys probably to Jon Jones were fairly irrelevant. They did nothing for his resume in his career, and they were just kind of wins to stay on top and stay active. And now he has a whole new challenge where he's never fought in this weight class. He has a lot of people that are actually doubting him, telling him he can't win the fight, telling him he's not going to be a 2-division champ, he's too old, and all these things. He's too small, he's too chubby now. But, man, another thing is I think that Jones is going to perform well at this weight, too. I think that on top of potentially, we're allowed to say he's going to be slower and things like that, I think he could potentially have knockout power. I think he could potentially be a little bit more explosive, a little bit more powerful. You see his brothers, man, they're in the NFL, both of them, Chandler Jones, Arthur Jones, big motherfuckers, man, and they're super athletic, super agile. They have similar frames to Jon Jones, even though they just pack on that muscle and that size, and they could still say athletic. So I think Jon Jones is going to have a similar mold to his brothers where he can be an athletic big guy as well. And, he's going to have the length advantage by 3.5 inches still in the fight. He's not going to be little in there compared to Jon Jones or Ciryl Gane. I wouldn't be surprised if he weighed more than Ciryl Gane at weigh-ins either. So I think Jon Jones is going to match the size of Ciryl. And I didn't want him to see him out here all pumped up. Like I see some people saying, oh, he's looking chubby and things like that. I mean, I think he looks fine. I mean, I didn't want him to see him all jacked up. I think that's what would make him slower if he added up a lot of muscle. All he did was he just, has good functional weight on him now, it seems like, and he's going to go in there and be healthy, stronger, bigger, faster, and more powerful, hopefully. So hopefully we see the best version of Jon Jones. I mean, 35 years old for a heavyweight is not old by no means, and even though Jon Jones has been fighting at the top for 13 years, he's had a lot of layoffs. He's not really taken much damage. He hasn't had too many tough fights. So I still think he's relatively in his prime. Even though he had those close fights with Reyes and Santos, I really do feel like a lot of that was motivation, man. I think that we're going to see a different version of Jon Jones in this fight. And Ciryl, man, I think Cyryl's a beast. I think he's a very, very good striker. But I just don't get how people are picking him here, man. I mean, if you go back and watch that fight with Francis, I thought that was a horrible fight from both guys, man. I mean, you see Francis is just plodding forward in that fight. He's so slow. He looks horrible in that fight. And somehow he's still able to close the gap on Ciryl. He's able to get him down at certain points. And Ciryl gasses out so hard. But when you're looking at just how Ciryl, in my opinion, is going to handle this fight, I think it's pretty obvious what he's going to do. And he only has one way to win. I think he's going to be trying to stick and move with his striking, use a lot of footwork, attack the lower half. So I think he's going to be attacking the body of Jon Jones. I think he's going to be trying to attack the legs of Jon Jones with a lot of kicks. And then try to open up the shots to the head later in the fight. And I think that Cyryl's just going to be trying to play that striking game and the speed game with his feet, using his feet. And I think he has faster movement. But
I think Jon Jones has faster hands, and Jon Jones, man, is much different than any of these guys that Ciryl Gane has faced. You look at these guys that Ciryl Gane is fighting. I mean, he fought a lot of, I don't want to say cans, but he fought a lot of guys that just, they're not that skilled, man. I mean, you look at Tai Tuivasa, even though he's a high-level guy, the guy is not skillful. He's someone that's going to stand in front of you. He's a brawler. You look at Derek Lewis, same thing. He's a brawler. Francis Ngannou, kind of similar, is like a brawler striker. Jairzinho Rosenstruck, JDS, Tanner Bozer, Donto Mays, Paso. I mean, who are these guys, man? These guys are not Jon Jones. They're not fighting anything like Jon Jones. Jon Jones is going to be pressuring from the start. I think it's going to be exactly the same game plan that he had for the Dom Reyes fight in terms of he's going to be heavy on the pressure. And I think he's going to be a lot more heavy on the wrestling in this fight because you see a lot of people are saying, like, Ciryl's going to be harder to take down because he's a heavyweight, harder to take down than Dom Reyes, but I just totally disagree with that, man. I mean, you saw Jones get so deep on Reyes. He took him down a couple times against the cage, and Reyes is popping back up. He's fighting the hands. He's showing elite-level cardio. He's showing elite-level get-ups. Ciryl Gane isn't going to do that. He's not going to have the cardio. He's not going to have the get-ups, in my opinion. And I think Jon Jones could dog him out, man. I think Jon Jones could dominate in the clinch. Even on the feet, I think that the pressure and the kicks are going to be, they kind of do the same thing. They like to switch stances. They throw a lot of oblique kicks and front kicks from the outside. I think Ciryl has the better boxing for sure, but I think that Jon Jones, in this fight, a lot of people are talking about like, oh, he has to deal with the heavyweight power, all that. I think Dominic Reyes and Santos have more power, more dangerous knockout threats than Ciryl Gane. They're more fast, they're more explosive. And I think he's going to see a lot more Ciryl Gane shots coming. I think he's going to be a lot faster than any opponent Ciryl Gane has ever fought. And I don't think that Ciryl Gane is going to be as fast as some of the fast guys that Jon's fought. So I don't think it's going to be a big deal, really, that speed, even up at heavyweight. And I think Jon actually has the faster kicks and the faster hands. It's just the foot speed with the movement for Ciryl. But, man, I just don't see how Ciryl's going to keep the pace in this fight. I really don't. I don't see him knocking him out. You saw Ciryl was gassed in the third round against Ngannou, man, and that was the only fight where he had to defend a takedown. He hasn't had to defend a takedown in any of his other fights, really, man. I mean, and Jon Jones is going to be in there giving him the business. I really feel like Jon Jones is going to dominate this fight. I think Ciryl Gane, you heard a lot of things too, like he said that he's not like a hard worker. I think even his coach said like Francis Ngannou is a hard worker and Ciryl Gane is the talented guy. I mean, you don't want to hear that, man. If Ciryl Gane's getting outworked by Francis Ngannou, is he going to outwork Jon Jones? I mean, who does Francis Ngannou go in there and out-hustle in a fight? Like, Francis Ngannou doesn't out-hustle guys, and he out-hustled Ciryl Gane. He was taking Ciryl Gane down when he was dead exhausted, just laying on him. And, man, I mean, Jon Jones has the best top game, one of the best top games in the history of MMA. If he gets on top of Ciryl Gane, it's going to be over, man. He'll beat him up with the elbows. He'll eventually submit him or he'll TKO him. And I just feel like Jon Jones is, I think he's better, man. I think he's better in the clinch. I think he's better on the ground by a large margin. His wrestling is way better. I think that his kicks can match Ciryl Gane's kicks. I think that eventually as the fight goes on, he's going to be the superior striker just off volume and cardio. And I just feel like Jon Jones is the bigger dog as well, man. I think Jon Jones is a savage. He's one of these guys that's willing to go in there and die to win. And I don't think Ciryl Gane is one of those guys. I don't think Ciryl Gane has that super dog in him. I don't think he has that next level savage in him like we've seen Jon Jones show in other fights. And Jon Jones, another thing about this fight that you got to talk about, man, for sure, is the fact that he's teamed up with Fight Ready, man. Fight Ready MMA. I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, but when you look at Fight Ready, they definitely got a notorious steroid guy over there that they work with, man, and a lot of their athletes are extremely conditioned, to an insane level. They go to Fight Ready, and all of a sudden their wrestling is back, and they're taking guys down and dominating them on the ground. I mean, you look at even guys like Eric Anders. Eric Anders, his career went on a huge resurgence when he went to Fight Ready. So you got to wonder, Jon Jones, what he's doing, if he's going to be souped up super hardcore for this fight. But I got to go with Jon Jones all day. I think he's going to finish in this fight in the third, fourth, or fifth round. I just don't see Ciryl keeping up with the pace. I think this is an easier fight than Dominic Reyes, than Thiago Santos, even though I think Ciryl would beat those guys, and Ciryl is a better martial artist probably. But it's just different type of matchup, and I don't think that Ciryl is a good matchup for Jones. I think Jones is going to show that, man. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Jones. I think a lot of people are trashing his last couple of fights, but like, look at the pressure he was putting on Dominic Reyes and the pace that he put on that guy. The cardio that Reyes showed in that fight was incredible, man. And Ciryl Gane does not have that. He's not going to have that, man. I just refuse to believe that. I'm extremely confident that Jon Jones is going to go out there and get the job done, honestly. I'm like very confident that Jon Jones is going to win. But, yeah, man, that's the full card breakdown and predictions for UFC 285. If you guys disagree with me on anything, let me know. Tell me what you guys are picking, who you guys are betting on. Like I said at the top of the video, let's get to 150 likes. Click that fucking like button. Let's go, man. Let's get over that number. Would really appreciate it. And if you want to get access to the bets, I got quite a few bets. I think I got almost 10 bets on the card. I'm not 100% sure. I could go back and verify right now. But, yeah, I don't got it in front of me. I think I got, like, close to 10 bets on the card right now. So quite a few bets over there at patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru. There's Cage Warriors this week. There's PFL. I got a bet on PFL already too. So go to patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru. Get access to those bets and make some money, man. We're up over 20 units this year. We're up over 250 units lifetime. So we're one of the best in the business, man, when it comes to betting. And as far as the part of the weekend, my most confident pick for this card, for my most confident pick, it is Bo Nickal, but just because that line is way off, I'm going to say Jon Jones is going to be my most confident pick. That's going to be the pick that I give you guys as the most confident pick. And for the parlay of the week, I'm going to go with Cameron Saaiman, and I'm going to go with Cameron Saaiman, Farid Basharat, and Bo Nickal as the parlay of the week. So those three guys. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you guys learned something from this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to click that subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Get access to weekly UFC breakdown and predictions videos I put down. I've been doing this for years now. So appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll be back next